World Bank launches business climate rankings. Now, recently what happened that World Bank used to issue doing business report. So doing business report which will rank the world countries on the basis of ease with which it is possible to do business in those countries. Okay, so that's why it is also called ease of doing business report. Okay, so this ranking was significant for world countries. Why this was significant? Because these rankings suggested to the investors the progress in terms of business friendly environment that these countries are making. So once a country has having good rank in the ease of doing business indicator, it will help those countries to project themselves as business friendly in the world and therefore attract the foreign direct investment. So as a result of this, ease of doing business was very important for countries. It was this importance which also helped or which also resulted in politicization of this. So what happened that Chinese had tried to influence by their money and muscle power in order to manipulate the data so that their rankings are improved significantly in this. So if they are deserving rank 60th, they were getting rank 40th because of the manipulation of data and the favoritism that they were receiving in the World Bank. This was actually exposed by an investigation and therefore the World Bank had to discontinue the publication of this doing business report. All right. So this was done after embarrassing revelation of data irregularities and favoritism towards China forced it to cancel the flagship ease of doing business rankings 2 years ago. Okay. So what happened? They are coming up with new series, which in short form they are calling Be Ready or Business Ready. So a pilot edition of the new replacement annual series will be published in spring of 2024 and it will initially comprise of 54 countries or economies in Asia, Latin America, Europe, Middle East, etc. Right? So initially they are going to start it as a pilot with a select group of countries. Thereafter they are going to expand if this works well. Okay. So more countries will be added in next 2 years. Now, something more about ease of doing business. So the ease of doing business index was an index created by World Bank Group. So it is created by World Bank Group as a whole. World Bank Group has a 5 organization, whereas World Bank has 2 organizations. So you have to understand that it is created by World Bank Group. Now, following the release of World Development Report of 2002. So it was after the release of this 2002 report of World Development that World Bank started to implement this. Okay. Now the objective was to provide the kind of business environment that is existing in various countries. So any business, if you see, there is a life cycle of business. That means starting a business to closing a business. Okay. In between the starting and closing of the business, there are a lot of steps that the companies are required to take, such as taking permission for land, taking enforcement of contract, taking electricity, and ultimately the insolvency and bankruptcy. Okay, so this is the entire life cycle of the business. Now, these became the indicators of the World Bank report on ease of doing business. So every country was rated on these specific indicators. So how easy it is to get construction permit in a particular country, how easily a contract is enforced, how effective is insolvency and bankruptcy procedure in a country. All these were taken into consideration. Alright, and on the basis of this, a score called distance to frontier was calculated. Okay, this distance to frontier score varies from 0 to 100. 100 is the best practice. So if on a particular indicator, a country is having best practice, okay, for example, labor reforms, then this country will get this score. That means distance to frontier of this country is almost negligible. There is no gap between the best practices and the actual score. Okay. So greater is the score, the better it is. Lesser the distance from the frontier, lesser the gap is. Okay. So this distance to frontier has been explained as, for example, score of 75 means an economy was 25 percentage points away from the frontier constructed from the best performance across all economies and across time. So it is just 25% away from the frontier. All right. Okay. Why did World Bank discontinue the rankings? As I said, that scam had emerged after the investigation by a law firm, Wilmer Hale, in which it was found that World Bank staff members changed the data on China to improve the rankings on ease of doing business of China. Okay. So this wasn't the first time rankings had come for criticism. Earlier also, due to lack of transparency, these kind of allegations have been made. And in 2018, bank's chief economist Paul Romer, who later on got Nobel Award also, resigned because of the data manipulation that he was seeing or witnessing. Okay. So this institution has also been politicized to a very large and significant extent. Also, the flawed methodology to calculate these indicators. All right. Now let us understand one important thing also. Recently there is a important development that had happened, is that USA's nominee Ajay Banga, who is ex-Indian and who is now US citizen since 2007, is being elected as the president of the World Bank. Okay. Earlier he was a CEO of MasterCard. All right. Now, as a matter of practice, since the formation of Bretton Woods institutions, BWIs, Bretton Woods institutions like World Bank, IMF and WTO, the head of the organizations like WTO has always been a US citizen, and the head of the organization of IMF has always been a European. So this is a part of a mutual understanding between European Union and the USA. Alright, so that's why sometimes it is also called a white collar or a gentleman's agreement, right? So this is an important thing that we have to understand, that this is how, or this is how much these countries are basically controlling these significant institutions. Like, so since its founding, International Monetary Fund has been always led by an European. Okay, so this is a kind of control that they have. One more important thing that here I want to highlight is that USA's vote share in the World Bank is around 15.85%. Okay. Now, to implement a particular decision in World Bank, 85% of votes are required. That means USA has a veto. If USA do not agree to any reform proposal in World Bank, that reform proposal cannot go through, right? So this is a kind of significant influence that these countries are exercising on these institutions. Therefore, world countries are looking for alternative institutions also, like Asian Infrastructure and Investment Bank. Under BRICS, we have something called New Development Bank. Okay, so these are alternative arrangements that world countries are trying to create, because we want to somehow counter the hegemony of these Western dominated institutions.